And we're live. Yay! Okay. Haha. So I've done this a few times on YouTube. So essentially, people that moan about Star Wars and things like that, like me, we will have conversations like that. The last conversation I had like this in this format was a guy called Nick from back. He's got a show called The Backyard TARDIS in the States, and he's a real Sega geek. So we were talking Sega and Sonic the Hedgehog and all the mythos behind that. And it was a really fun episode. This episode won't be as fun in that way, but it will be more interested in other ways. So now my channel, it doesn't have a lot of people, about 500 subs, and probably about 10 people and their cat and their goldfish watch the channel.
Counts then, does it?
Yeah, and the goldfish as well. So they watch the channel, but it's still, once in a while someone from Tokyo will say, "Oh, you got a great show." I was like, "Thanks, man." So yeah, I think most of the guys and girls that watch it are from the USA, to be fair. So most other English people tend to hate me, but the Americans tend to think I'm okay.
There you go. Well, the accent helps, Aaron. When I worked in America, they always used to say that the minute I opened my mouth, my IQ went up 20 points.
We see mine goes up about 20 points, but then when they see I'm black, it goes down about 25.
Oh, that's cruel.
So it kind of like, it's like they don't know what to do with me. It's like, oh gosh, I want to put you back, but you are English, and you like Star Wars as well. So I've got to give you a few more points. So yeah, so that's that one there. So okay, so let me do a bit of an introduction anyway, just because I'm pretending that I'm sort of semi-professional with this here. On my channel, Christian Fandom Geek. So this is the Law Be With You podcast show. I've got Rob, and Rob is a great guy who I know from the world of work. I think most people that watch the channel don't know what I do at all. I don't generally talk about it that much, really, because I'm always ranting about Kathleen Kennedy and Star Wars. So sometimes I say, "Oh, I'm a real life Obi-Wan Kenobi," and then they don't know what to do with that. And I think, does he go around conventions? Is he race bending Obi-Wan because we don't like things like that? What's going on? And no, if you guys bother to ask me back what I meant by that, I will tell you that I'm a mentor like Obi-Wan Kenobi, except I don't use the Force. I use love, compassion, and kindness. You could argue that Obi-Wan that uses a little bit of that as well as violence. I don't use violence. So Rob, you are my coach. Now in the USA, they'll probably think of an actual coach going from one place to another, or they'll think of American football. So you're not that type of coach. So what type of coach are you, Rob? And also tell my audience who will watch this at some point, who are you? What do you do? How do we connect together? Like, just give us a little snapshot of who you are.
Sure, Rob Chester. I'm old. I'm 51 now. I'm a CEO of a business, a startup business, which was new for me. So I had a long corporate career before I got to do what I do today. So I run it's still a small business, and it's only 3 years old, but we're growing quickly, and hopefully we're gonna do it the right way. What to know about me? I guess global probably is the thing that most people know about me, is that I've been really fortunate in my career and jobs in that I've worked in a lot of different places and worked around the world. Yeah. So I've always had jobs where I've been able to travel and go to different places. And not just travel and go, I've been lucky to live in different places. So I was fortunate to live and work in China for 3 years.
Wow.
Fortunate to live and work in America for 3 years. And as you got a lot of American listeners, I lived in real America because I lived in Arkansas. And when you live there, you have a much clearer understanding of how America works and how America operates. And Ken, to you, because I was really tempted to get involved with an organization called Raw and Cherished. And that was basically because I think younger people are getting a shitty inheritance. I think the next generation behind me, one of my principles that I live by is that I always think the next generation should do better than the last generation.
Yeah.
And it's crystal clear to me now that that's not going to be the case for probably the next 2 generations. And that really worries me. And I hate that that's a fact. So as part of my thing on that, I got involved with Raw and Cherish because I wanted to do a little bit to try and give back to younger people and do it in a different way. And to also prove a little bit that not all bosses are the devil, which I know today you will find that that's usually thought of as being the case.
So you're telling me you're not Palpatine from Star Wars, you're not the Emperor?
I'm not that.
Yeah, I know. What does it say? Like, power. What is it? Power corrupts, and ultimate power ultimately corrupts, or something like that.
Just read a book on that, and yeah, that is, and it is increasingly true. Hence, it's like the podcast thing today. I think most younger people are sat there thinking we are getting a shitty end of the stick here. We're getting a crap inheritance, and frankly, a lot of it is down to the people that have gone before us. Not thinking like the next generation should do better. And of course, the bottom line is, Aaron, it's correct. They are getting a shitty inheritance. They are likely to be poorer than their parents were. And that whole concept just bothers me, worries me. And I don't think enough people are honest about that being the situation.
Yeah, that's pretty shocking, that is. I mean, you can't even kind of, like, I mean, like you say, it would be just a really basic thing to, I don't know, it's not even common sense. It's more moral than that. There's a common sense aspect to it, but it's moral. There's we want our children and our children's children and our children's children's children to that generation because listen, we should be learning from previous generations, and then we should be passing the torch on to our contemporaries and our younger ones. The mistakes that we've made, listen, don't do this because this didn't work. But also sort of, having that sort of almost like a duty of care. Like we're caretakers, we're stewards of the world right now, but we know that there's a sacred duty to pass the torch on to you guys, and it's in a better state now than it was previously, and always trying to enable you guys to make it even better for you guys than it is currently right now.
And it's
a shocker. It's a shocker.
Worrying.
I mean, we're going to talk about this, and the thing is, because I'm obsessed with Elon Musk at the moment, in a sense, and we've talked about our good friend Elon before. Because he's a strange dude. He's obviously an intelligent man, very creative. Absolutely. With making a lot of money.
Yeah.
Apparently his cars are half decent, and he has a love for space and whatnot. And he obviously bought Twitter, paid a lot of money for it, converted it to X. And he's saying that he's championing free speech. A lot of people are like, wow. Initially, we're like, okay, great, that's great. We want free speech. But then other people are like, oh, hang on a minute. We're allowing a door for those who have very intense views to kind of espouse those views without really much safeguarding, or you sort of like, they can just say and do whatever they want. I've seen that as well. I've seen things on X now that's like, wow, that's pretty shocking things to say, and it's allowed. So there's that. But the big thing about about our generation and probably previous generations is the internet for me. Yes. I remember the internet coming in, and but I also remember the world before the internet. So it's a very interesting junction. I remember it before the internet. I remember dial-up broadband, the slowest form of internet you could possibly get coming in. As we both know that you can only have one device on the go, and you couldn't even use your landline phone and your PC at the same time. And then this whole new world of the World Wide Web has changed. It's changed a lot of things. Probably, and I know there's always unintended consequences with everything. I think people would be surprised how many unintended consequences have come in already. But I think for me, it's the way that it's shaping culture that's actually surprised me the most.
Yeah, it's fundamentally changed several bits, hasn't it? I mean, one of the truisms is definitely speed. So the world is getting faster.
Yeah.
And it ain't going to slow down anytime soon.
No.
And so the old adage that a lie gets around the world before the truth has got its pants on is true.
Yeah.
Because people, as we know, are much more, everybody likes new, don't they, Aaron? Everybody wants to be the first to know about something. So when you see something juicy on social media, the natural inclination for most people is to like it, share it, spread it. And of course, because the lies are going to be so much more enticing than anything that's the truth.
Yeah.
They just spread faster and quicker. And then once you understand the way the algorithms work, that if that's what floats your boat, guess what? An awful lot more of it is going to come towards you over the next few hours or few days. And if you keep going down the rabbit hole, it just keeps coming and coming and coming.
Crazy.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand, does it? How you have people who do go down these horrible rabbit holes because it's so just bloody easy to do if you're not really worldly wise and careful. Pretty obvious, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Because the thing is now, obviously, and we spoke about this before, about the politics aspect of it, Elon's coming in, like going back to Elon, and he's basically, he's got X, which is, I think, it's as a platform, I find it a very interesting platform. It's very good. It's very good because the whole thing of X, really, Twitter, it was that you could literally interact with anybody. So even people that are the most famous people on the planet, you could potentially catch their attention if you reply to one of their tweets and they read it and they captivated by what you're saying. Whether they love it or hate it, if you can draw a response from them, you can connect with anyone. Now that premise I like. That's really interesting. Like you can literally, you could tap into anyone, and it causes interesting debates and conversations. But we spoke about this a few weeks about the algorithm. There's an issue with the algorithm. It's the same with a lot of social media. There's an issue with the algorithm in terms of when it comes to certain ideologies. Because obviously the problems that we have, and I remember we've talked about this a few times, which is really interesting for our audience. They'll get a snapshot of some of the things that we've spoke about. Is in the world now, narratives are becoming very weaponized and very polarized, and it's very tribal. It's very us or them.
It is.
And the social media aspect of that is not helping at all. It's actually really amplified it to a next level, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it really has. It's. I think it's simply, Aaron. Another aspect is like the speed at which groups can get created.
Yeah.
That's just all accelerated, wasn't it? Before the internet was invented, when I was a young man, if you wanted to create a group of people around something, how the bloody hell would you go about doing that? It'd be very, very difficult to do. Whereas now you can do it in 33 seconds flat on your phone.
Yeah.
And potentially. So I think the world around this has changed so much.
Yeah.
And yet the rigor that a lot of things like journalism has to go through simply can't be easily applied in the world that we're in. And that, again, is something that even within traditional media, Aaron, I mean, I was watching I didn't watch it all, but I did start to watch our prime ministerial debate on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
And the fact of this, £2,000 bill from Labour, it's quite amazing when you think about it, that TV hasn't yet figured out a way to be doing relatively instant fact checking.
Yeah.
Because it damn well should.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that that's not that difficult to be understanding and getting to grips with quickly.
Yeah.
So even traditional media that's meant to be done quite rigorously and quite impartially, etc., that's struggling with this issue of facts and this issue of truth. And therefore, social media ain't got a lot of hope, has it, in terms of trying to be able to do this? But at least on Twitter, as I saw today, they were trying to fact check, so it was getting that little blue message underneath that, right, this £2,000, it's not quite everything it seems, etc., it's coming in. So, I mean, I think it just really, really becomes really important, because if you're not doing that and not finding a way to do that and starting to accept lies or alternative facts, holy cow, that's a big, big problem in the world today that's not going to get better anytime soon.
So young people today, like I said, generations that you're talking about at the start, about those who are coming now and then beyond us, and in the far future as well, they've got to deal with this sort of. I mean, I suppose do you remember? I remember Donald Trump talking about I did laugh at the time. I thought it was the funniest thing ever when he started saying, "Oh, fake news! This is fake news. You are fake news," and everything was fake news. And I was like, because it's really interesting phenomenon. Because obviously, before the internet, we didn't have people deliberately. Well, people would lie. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing new under the sun. It's human nature. There's nothing new under the sun.
Nothing new.
But they wouldn't have this platform to be able to fabricate stories and go into and actually deliberately do it with great detail in a way that it's like, it's and maybe you'd obviously sometimes in journalism you'd get people, doing a dodgy story or whatever in the newspaper, and then the newspaper would find out and have to retract the story. But it was the way it's done in such a sort of widespread way of lots of groups of people, organizations, probably even deliberately spreading misinformation and a kind of culture war based on, okay, we can't stop the truth coming out, so let's just bring up loads of other narratives and loads of other. It's almost like a distraction tool to say, okay, let's plunder everything into confusion, and
absolutely.
And so our next generation have to deal with that as well.
I think some of it is just people's reluctance to change their minds.
Yeah.
And that is something that I was brought up by my father to be very proud if you change your mind. He used to say that changing your mind is the best way of proving you've still got one.
That's a good one.
That is not the world we're in today.
No.
The vast majority, particularly my American friends, etc., would say this.
Yeah.
It is polarized. Where the twain shall meet. We are Republican, we're Democrat. And the number of people in the middle who really are, no, I'm open to listen and decide and change my mind, is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And that is something that tremendously concerns me professionally because of my job of what I do and how I do it, but then also just around the world. If I've got something wrong as a CEO, I can't tell you how much I love it if people come and say, Rob, you're about to make a bloody mistake here, mate. You just want to slow down here a bit. You just want to stop. Yeah. Those people you want to protect, you want them in your organization, because people that do that nowadays are few and far between. So I think the concept of just being prepared to change your mind, it's just so important. People in my world, the most worrying people, the people that I call confidently wrong.
Mm.
They're the dangerous people. They're the ones who start wars and get stuff wrong.
It's those people are the ones that tend to have authority, don't they?
Absolutely. Confidently and a good communicator.
Yes.
And wrong.
Oh dear.
Are the real watch outs. They're the ones that where it really does. Holy cow! When you've got those people, be careful, because wow, it's and in my world, I often met these. So I should explain. So my world really is compliance. Yeah. So my job historically was all about getting people to follow rules and do things and do the right thing every day. And the most dangerous people in that world are these people that I call confidently wrong, because they're really they're confident in their position.
Yes.
But they just happen to be wrong. And if you've got that in an area of like food safety or compliance or health and safety, they're the people where usually you're going to have a challenge and you're going to have an issue. So yeah, we do have a lot of people of those in the world today where they're confident in their position. They're not open to the fact they could be wrong and change and do something.
Yeah.
And that I find that sad. I wish more people were open to changing their views and changing their mind.
I think like it's terrible in terms of just the fact that one, you've got a sort of lack of humility there, and obviously people in terms of humility are different in terms of how they sort of perceive things. How they people can be naturally more confident than others and whatnot, and that's perfectly quite natural. But it's the idea of probably a lack of accountability is an issue there. We all like confident people. We all feel more comfortable if someone seems to know what they're doing. But like you're saying, the biggest issue there is that actually they don't know what they're doing, and often it's funny in the world of religion. You often had the issue where you had pastors and leaders of big churches, like mega churches, that would kind of have that issue where they would seem to be very charismatic, flamboyant, super confident, great at drawing people to the church and winning people over. And then you'd hear something would happen years later, and it's like something they'd do something outlandish and outrageous that would be like, oh my gosh, like some crazy behavior, and everyone's like, what is going on here, sort of thing. And it's just and so it's interesting that you'll see this sort of mentality across the board in different industries, in different realms and different genres. You'll see this sort of arrogance of leaders that think that they're amazing, and they get it completely wrong. Now, listen, we all get things wrong, but it's that idea of, like you were saying, Rob, you're saying, like, if you've got people around you that say this is probably a bad idea, let's kind of reevaluate some stuff here. Why don't you look at it from this point of view instead? That's like a safeguarding thing. That's like this. That is like, you've got people around you that can help bring wisdom. Wow, the wisdom word, like wisdom and common sense, and like can shine a light into a situation and help us, like, okay, yeah, maybe that is a bad idea. Let's look at it. I like what you said. Let's have a look at it a different way, and let's see if this way works better.
Yeah, it's why it's so important. The best chief exec who taught me how to do what I do today. Someone would turn up at a board meeting, would do a presentation with a proposal, and then he would go around the table and ask everybody to give their honest view before he would say a word. Then he'd give his view, but it was to do, Aaron, exactly what you've just described. It was to basically get the best views from around the room. And then if you have to make a decision, you make a decision. You make a decision, you get on with it, you do it, and hopefully review it at some point in the future about whether it was a good decision or not.
Yeah.
But the best leaders are comfortable with surrounding themselves with people who will speak truth to power, who will honestly say what they think. But of course, again, in the world we're in today, that has not been the way that government and other businesses necessarily have operated over the last few years. And this is what worries me about the democracy thing, because it's very, very easily, democracy is a very fragile thing, and there's an awful lot fewer democracies in countries in the world today than there was 10 years ago or 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's because this authoritarian thing can feel very attractive to people because of the example you gave. People get into this messiah culture of, I'm following this person and I'm following them no matter what they do, no matter what they say, no matter how bad they are. In fact, the worse they are, the more I'm likely to follow them, because I want to prove
that makes no sense at all.
I'm a follower than him. It's
the worse they are. There's so right now. There's so many streams of thought coming at me right now. You've got like you said about the Messiah complex. Christian Vandergeek is a channel that I like to deconstruct the best stories of the world, including Star Wars, and from a Christian point of view, and look for the spiritual truths in there. So that when you talk about the Messiah complex, I'm really comfortable talking about that, because as a Christian, I do believe in a literal Messiah, but I also believe that the process of the Messiah complex can be really dangerous. Like it's a real, if you've got people that are not very discerning and lack critical thinking, the Messiah trope or Messiah complex is people are looking, and don't get me wrong, there is an innocence there. We all need heroes. We all need role models. We all need heroes. We all need men and women to look up to, that inspire us, that want to draw the best. That we all need coaches, we all need mentors. That's why I'm involved in mentoring lads at different schools, trying to be a role model, trying to be a coach to these lads and bring the best out of us. So we all need that. And so actually we are programmed to need that. We need fathers and mothers. We need people around us that we can connect with, that they've got something about them and we aspire to be like them. And so the Messiah trope or complex, I guess, more complex, is like that, but amplified to the next level. But if you have them people engaging that don't have critical thinking, that can't weigh things up, that's when it becomes a real issue. And obviously in the USA right now, that's very polarized. And I want to talk to you about the USA and China, because you've lived in both US and China. And obviously the US and China have very different ways of thinking in terms of how they view politics and religion and ideology. Although in some ways they do share a sort of Messiah complex when it comes to how they buy into leadership and how they view leadership and the sort of loyalty that they probably espouse to a leader. In some ways they're quite similar. But I want to kind of go in this Messiah complex again. In the USA, they have Trump and you have Biden. And on X, on Twitter, you'll see the left side are glorifying Biden and saying he's the best thing since sliced bread. And then the right are always like saying, well, Trump is the best thing also since sliced bread. And it's like you say, no one will change their mind. People struggle to say, well, I like some things about him, but other things I don't like. So there's a little bit of the jury's out a little bit, and I'm just judging it day by day. It tends to be very sort of polarized, very, very intense, very it's the all or nothing sort of thing.
Yeah, and then add on to that, back to where we started, this thing that people have been shafted.
Yes.
Because they have.
Yeah.
And most people today are feeling worse off than they were 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago.
And there's a lot of reasons for that.
Desperate for someone to come along and say, I'm going to get things better.
Yeah.
And in a world where patience is not necessarily people's virtue,
no,
they basically want it to get better very, very, very quickly. And so you can very easily see, can't you, why that leads to politicians who will provide easy answers. You know, that it's obvious, isn't it? Because ultimately they will come across as extremely appealing to people who are desperately looking for improvement in their lives.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, if you look at Trump, for example, and a lot of my American friends that are kind of more conservative, they might not agree with every single thing about Trump. Maybe I'm a little bit unfair on that for the guys that follow my channel, but I think they would probably have a lot of certain things that agree with Trump. There's certain things I agree with Trump. I'm pro-life. I do believe in religion I do believe in religion being a sort of metaphysical foundation. I think Jordan Peterson was one of the guys that said it, that America and the West, he said, I think it's more talking about the West. He said that the West has lost their mythology, and that's why they're all at sea. So any ideology moves them around left, right, and center because they've lost their mythology. And I think there's some truth in that. I think when a culture loses its mythology, and I'm using the word mythos or mythology, not as saying it's false, but just saying it's narrative, it's spiritual story. I think when cultures lose that and become very materialist, maybe too materialist in a way, maybe too driven by ideologies that come and go, and it's not really rooted in anything, I think that's a struggle. Politics will take its place to a degree, but even then, it's still a struggle. And like you're saying, Rob, it's that kind of Superman complex. It's like, okay, we're looking for Messiah, we're looking for Superman, we're looking for this guy or woman to have all the answers. We can buy into them. They're the righteous one. They're the good one. The other one, whoever's opposed to them, is the villain. And so we need to back this one. And it goes into this sort of, okay, we're not very discerning. We're not understanding nuance. We're not understanding that on some things they could be correct and other things they might be completely wrong. And we can speak truth to power and say, I like this person, I like that person, but actually I'm not agreeing when they're saying that. I'm not agreeing if they're saying this. I'm going to judge it in a very critical way, but with also fairness as well.
See, one of the elements that I think the internet has caused is that people have confused the fact that they have access to knowledge with real knowledge. And because now you can just take your phone out of your pocket and stick something into Google, and within 2 seconds, suddenly have someone describing back to you how to complete brain surgery. You've got a load of people out there that basically believe they've got a level of expertise and knowledge about something that they sort of really haven't. And with those, I think that's true of everybody now. I think the reality is that we're all experts, aren't we? Or we can all pretend that we're experts and want to come across as we're experts.
Yeah.
Then thing that with the thing that everybody loves to be liked.
Yes.
That's really, wasn't it, what social media tapped into? Really, you said it earlier before. It's this thing about likes and followers. And,
the dopamine hit, isn't it?
Yeah. So ultimately, I think that those things, together with people who come along and promulgate easy answers to really complex problems and complex, it's a really, really toxic combination of putting all of that together. That it does explain sort of how we've got to where we've got to. Plus the fact, back to the thing before, see, I mentioned before about living in the middle of America, you see. And it is different. In Arkansas, when you drove across that state, you drove through areas of significant poverty, of towns and small hamlets that clearly once were prosperous, which are not today. And you didn't drive through one or two or three as you go on a 5-6 hour drive. You would drive through an awful lot. So, middle America quite rightly feels that, frankly, they've had the shitty end of the stick for an awful long time. Then combine that with the other ingredients that we've talked about, and you've got a lot of people who are very, very, very angry and are looking for people who are going to provide a better solution.
Yes, I get that. I totally get that. So we're going to do this as a part 1 and part 2 because of time, but I want to kind of finish on talking about what are the sort of obvious differences between, say, the USA and China? Because you've lived in both. When it comes to the idea of, say, something like this sort of Messiah trope, this sort of Messiah complex, and listening to understanding truth, how to sort of critically understand a message that comes across from a political leader.
Yeah, China is in many ways I loved living there, and in many ways I loved the people. I mean, I really did. I enjoyed my time in China. But the fundamental bit about it is you can try and get rich, you can try and get famous, but you cannot challenge the system and challenge the authority that's there. Fundamentally for me, I therefore always found that quite difficult living there. That just element, there is no democracy, there is no chance for you to get rid of people. And fundamentally for me, Aaron, that's the reason why democracy is the least worst option.
I like that. The least worst option.
Yeah, because fundamentally you've still got an element of control over governments.
But is democracy real? Because I always think this about democracy, talking about USA and China.
Yes.
That to have democracy, you just need to have the illusion of democracy. And if you have the illusion of democracy, people feel that their vote or their voice actually matters. And once in a while, you have to throw them a few breadcrumbs. You have to give them a few victories here and there. But actually, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have as much power as they actually think.
Well, yes, but you only got to look at countries like Russia, who stage elections every few years. So even the Putins of this world can understand that the illusion of elections is really important. That's why he still flipping well does them. So, of course, that can you trust some democracies? Well, probably no. There's a gradient in there on the stuff I see on it. You've got from absolutely you can trust it to forget it. It's a complete sham, and you've got variations through the thing. But I still prize the fact that I've got at least a small say in where it's all going and what it's done. And if someone's done really well, I can vote for them and keep them in. And if someone's done really badly, I can get rid of them and give someone else a go. So I'd still rather have that, which is why I think it is probably still the least bad option, which for China versus America, I could never. That was the fundamental about China. As much as I loved it and as much as I learned a lot and as much as, one obvious contrast you've got is long-term and short-term. And Aaron, this world needs more long-term thinking.
Okay.
We are getting more and more and more short-term about things.
That's social media as well.
Exactly. And that's what China has going for it. China can take long-term views on absolutely everything. Because as a famous politician said once, we all know what we need to do. We just don't know how to get re-elected after we've done it.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's very interesting.
So China doesn't have to worry about that. They can take a 50, 60, 70-year view, which is why it is so scary about how well that country's done and how fast it's developed. It has massive problems, of course it does. Lying but no one could deny the development of China since the 1970s to today is frankly on a scale that I don't think anybody's seen before.
Are they ahead of it? Are they number one now, China, would you say?
No, they'll be number two, and they'll be number two for a bit longer than I was expecting when I lived there. I think they'll be number two for at least another 20 years. Because they've got challenges and they've got problems, and they're going more authoritarian. Xi is going nowhere, and that's not necessarily a good thing. So yes, I look. There's pros and cons to both, but the big pro about China that America doesn't have and the West doesn't have is long-term. They can take very long-term views about some things. And when you look at things like education or transport or a lot of these other things, prisons, they can take a view that Western politicians can't. And that is helpful to them. But fundamentally, I still think democracy, for all its ills, I'd much rather have it than have no control over the crazies in charge of the asylum.
I just think of when you think of leaders and things like that from the UK. The one that shocked me the most was Liz Truss. She was the one that shocked me the most.
Well, obviously, you want the embodiment of confidently wrong.
Yeah,
there you have it.
Yeah,
there you have it.
I couldn't believe what she was doing. I was like, I'm not a politician. I haven't gone to university. I haven't trained in politics. And I was like, as soon as I heard what she was peddling, I was like, Liz, this is not going to work out well.
Well,
you're not in the right mindset for what you're talking about right now, for what you want to push through as an agenda. I wouldn't believe it.
I stuck something on Twitter the other night because you see, for me, Aaron, you see, this is where this is the problem for conservatives going forward. These conservatives have always been a very broad definition.
Yeah,
you know, when you've got parties,
and it kind of should be. It should be, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it should. But the problem with it is, sooner or later, this is really what Brexit has done, isn't it? What Brexit's really done is highlight these factions. And I think they're up to about 6 groups in the Tory party now, aren't they? And they'll lose the election. There'll have to be a load of bloodletting. They'll go away. They'll get more extreme. And then they'll decide that back to the middle ground again. But
middle ground is important, isn't it? I mean, the issue, like we say, when you've got polarity, one aspect of it, it's good to have strong, firm opinions about things.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you have to be, because I think people equate the middle sometimes with it's a bit boring. It's a bit fluffy, on the fence. You can't decide what you want to do. You're trying to please everybody.
Yeah.
You know, that is an inherent weakness as part of that strategy of trying to sort of be in the middle ground. Yes. And actually, I don't believe that. I believe that the centre actually can be firm. It can be. It can be. Yeah, it can say no. We have strong values. We have values that we believe in, and what we can do is we can pick and choose the best of the very liberal ideals and very conservative ideals, and we can pick the best of what we think is right and what actually works, and we can change our mind on things as well. And actually, it doesn't mean pie in the sky. It doesn't mean fluffy clouds at all. It can mean very reasonable, informed, and actually, and we can be firm, but we can move. We've got room for maneuver as well.
That's the dream, isn't it? The dream is exciting middle ground, and that's what we've struggled with, because you've got people that have basically decided this is the polarization, right? Exciting is going more and more and more to the right, or more and more and more to the left. Well, that unfortunately is not usually where the good ideas are. You will have to have compromise. You will have to have different people sat around the table to come to the best conclusion you can, but do it based on data and evidence and expertise.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, an awful lot of people really don't want that. They just much rather have the easy answer promulgated by the person they believe the most.
Wow, this has been a really fun episode, which I knew it would be. I knew it would be fun.
We'll do another one.
Yeah, we are. We're gonna. Yeah, no. So this is part one. So we've given them enough psychological and mental food. they've had enough there. They're full up. It's like Nando's, McDonald's, and all the best eateries. Jamie Oliver's place and whatever. There's a few others as well. So guys, this has been a great stream. Rob, always a pleasure. Thank you again. So we're going to do a part 2 at least, maybe even a part 3, maybe like Star Wars, do a whole trilogy of episodes.
It'd be lovely to get a question or two before then of something we'd like to focus on, because we've gone all over the place today, haven't we? But oh God, it's needed. It's needed. We need to talk about this more, Aaron, not less.
Yeah, it's putting the world to rights, isn't it? But I do, as we're kind of wrapping it up now, I do share that sentiment and that passion that you have for young people, which is why we're involved in mentoring and coaching, which is why we care about investing in the community. For Cherish and Raw,
So
and
important.
is vital. It's like essentially, and I will link it to a geek aspect of, it's like you're on Christian Fandom Geeks. So there's got to be a geek aspect to this, and I think about Superman now, and I'm linking Superman to science now. I remember a cosmologist. He said this. He goes, hope doesn't exist. He goes, and this is what he said. His name's Sean Carroll. Very, very intelligent man. I don't agree with this, with a lot of what he says, because he's very atheistic, but I like his ideas on science, and I think he goes wrong with religion and philosophy. So anyway, he said that hope doesn't exist because he says essentially you only hope when you only have hope if you don't know. So essentially, if you have all the information, you don't have hope, because you don't need to hope because you have all the information either way. But if you don't know things and you don't have all the facts, or you don't have all the there's a fancier way of saying it, but you don't have all the sort of all the indicators for a subject. He's talking about science and cosmology, but and free will as well. But he's basically saying if you have all the information, you don't need hope. Now, I think I disagreed with that slightly, because I feel there's two types of hope. So I feel there's the hope that you have, like a cosmologist would say, well, if you can trace cosmic events in the universe, then essentially you wouldn't really have hope, because you could work things out. If you can work out the past, you can work out the present and the future, because it all interlinks through cause and effect. And I understood what he was saying there, but I think there's a different type of hope. The other type of hope is not based on information; it's based on relationship. So it's your connection that you have with others who are steadfast, who have integrity, who are good people, who are trying to make the world a better place. That type of hope is almost the reverse of the negative Messiah complex. It's the connection with people who are trying to be role models or leaders, who we're not worshiping them. We're not trying to make them out to be something they're not, but we're recognizing that these are sound-minded people with a good motive, good hearts, good intentions. Don't think they know everything. Collaborate with others, and that's the sort of hope that we need to be, that we're trying to bring. Me and you are doing that as well to others, and we're saying we're not perfect, guys. We're not messiahs. We're not, we don't get everything right, but we're trying to instantiate some good things. We're trying to share pearls of wisdom. We're trying to coach and mentor, and actually, and that's part of what we're doing to try and make the world a better place. So we're talking about the issues, but on a practical level, we're actually trying to actually bring some good things in it as well.
Well, last thought, and then we'll stop, but last I heard, the last I understood, if you looked at the top 100 Billboard songs of all time, the most prevalent concept in that 100 songs was hope.
Wow. That's amazing.
Well, it comes basically back to the fact of people want it.
Yeah.
If you stop hoping that your future is going to improve or going to get better, or that you're going to have a better future, something to look forward to, something that's going to get better, something that's going to improve.
Yeah.
The minute you haven't got that, what are you left with? So for what it's worth, I think that guy's a nutcase. Everybody needs hope to some degree.
Yeah.
Because you've got to have it. What gets you out of bed in the morning? Otherwise, if you've no hope that things are going to improve.
I think loads of if there's any Sean Carroll fans that end up coming across this stream, they'll probably say, oh gosh, you completely misquoted Sean Carroll. Sean Carroll is completely only talking about cosmology. He's not talking about morality. He's not talking about psychology of human beings in the slightest. Oh, Moira. I always pronounce your name wrong, but thank you. Finally, I'm live. Yeah, basically, so I get into trouble with some of the fans of the channel because I keep uploading video game stuff of Star Wars and FIFA, and they just want me to just have interesting episodes like this one here and just talk about life and stuff like that. Yes. So
we'll have to do more of it then, won't we? Hey.
Yeah. So basically, I sometimes feel like a Billy No Mates. Like I've got lots of friends that are so interesting, and they're always unavailable. So it's like I get momentum going on the channel, and then suddenly it's like, everyone's busy. I'm Billy No Mates again, but it's awesome. Oh, it's awesome. Oh, thanks. Thank you very much. Look at this. We have some lovely comments. Yes, you want to be. Yes, that's true. People want to interact. They want to. If you say something that they like or hate, they want to give their 2 pence. Wherever, if I'm doing FIFA and Star Wars, they're like, "Well, I can't interact with that." So I'll probably start getting more subs now. Now that Rob's you've been on the channel.
Well, if you really listen to this, you couldn't hope to. You're definitely going to get more subscribers.
And you're on LinkedIn as well, so you can basically, all those people on LinkedIn that you can basically, I'll send you the link for this, and you can
send me the link,
and you can whack it on LinkedIn, and suddenly I'm living the good life. Woohoo! I'm going to be rich. Then I can challenge good old Elon, can't I? Then. Brilliant. Okay, so. And Moira, you're gonna have to watch this episode back because you've missed most of it, but you'll catch it back, and there's going to be a part 2, and probably. Oh gosh, okay, Rob, just quickly respond to this. Quickly, Rob, just respond to this one.
Does he have a channel? No, I wouldn't even know how to create one.
No, but can you respond to the first part, please, of what was said there?
What's the first one?
He sounds fancy as well.
No, fancy. No.
I think that's in relation to our British accents.
Northern English people don't normally sound fancy, do they? I mean, you're a little bit further south.
Yeah, so I'm a Brummie and Aston Villa fan, so I'm my accent's actually as common as they come, to be honest, and then yours is like next level common as well. So
yeah, no. I did used to get it though, Moira. Whenever I used to tour stores in the United States, ladies of a certain age, for whatever reason, didn't mind me talking to them and liked the English accent, and it's like, really? It's like, yeah. So
the Americans all loved you.
Yeah, well, the older ladies did. And I mean older ladies. I mean seriously older ladies.
What age are we talking here?
Seriously older ladies who were in shops in the middle of the day, which usually gave it away because they were usually retired ladies.
Retired ladies. You put a bit of spice to their lives.
That's right.
So Moira lives in the middle of America as well. So she probably might live where you were living.
Well, I lived in Arkansas for 3 years, Moira. So I don't know whereabouts in middle you are, but I'm old but still alive.
Look, as long as you're not a vampire, because I can't be dealing with anything like that.
Exactly.
I know. Okay, so Rob, we're going to collate. We're going to talk, and here we go. Hang on a second. We're going to talk, and then we're going to.
Wow, I've been there, Moira. I went there several times because I used to live in Arkansas, so I used to live in Bentonville. So I went through Oklahoma City, flew out there a few times, and drove through there a lot as well. So yeah. Last basketball game in America, I went to Oklahoma City.
Oh gosh, there you go. It's all coming out now. I didn't even know any of this.
There you go. You see.
There you go. Okay, so we're going to collect again, and we're going to come up with an equally powerful and enticing part 2. And I want to do it at least as a trilogy, or even more. Maybe like the Star Wars films, where they just keep doing them every so often. We'll just keep doing these episodes.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Look after yourself. Good to see you, Aaron.
God bless you. Thanks for your time, and we're back again very soon on Christian Fandom Geek.
Bye.
All right, thank you. Bye. Here we go. There.